Hello again, everyone. Professor Bell here with you. We're going to look at Chapter 2, which is about cultural geography, popular culture, folk cultures, indigenous cultures. There's lots of different things to look at here. So let's see if we can't get started and get a grip on what this concept is. We were going to work on folk cultures, especially about the Amish and even specifically within the Scottsville community of the Old Order Amish, also known as the Noah Hoover Mennonites. And I decided to go ahead and give a depiction of them in this, but to also look at an immigrant culture if we're assuming that the gentleman on the right in a Western business suit with his daughter hand in hand in a little dress that looks like it was very much mass produced, like their shoes and everything else in the picture. You have a really different contextual things going on here with it, but in the end, what do we see? Two dads holding hands with their daughters, and I love this because, well, I have two daughters, so you get to look at it, but think about all the things that go into this as we're going through these slides and telling these stories. So one of the things that your authors wanted to look at with you was, of course, these cultural regions as they're formed. And they gave you a series of maps to look at regarding Division I, NCAA sports and college sports, and looking at what the region entails and how culture influences. So this is called a cartogram, the map itself, and you can see here by the size of the circle it indicates the number of schools. So where is ice hockey, really important? Well, it's kind of neat to see that Alabama's got something going on down here, but out in Arizona, but to far north and northeast, your Minnesota, Michigan, New York, of course, and Massachusetts are the ones that really have the most of these teams, and it makes sense. They have a harsh winter. They have frozen ponds. If you watch any NHL at all, you'll know sometimes they have big outdoor games, local games all the way down in the Pee Wee League, and even pickup games that you can see here in this picture with the youth of the North playing. You'd have to have that much snow in the South if you were going to actually get it done. We don't anymore, if we ever had that much. Okay, so looking at lacrosse, this is a Native American game, and that too comes along out loud and clear here. Looking at New York being big in lacrosse, and these are all men's teams that they decided to look at with the cartography here, but certainly for Pennsylvania and even Maryland are really big, with also Connecticut on the list. And you have to shift all the way out west to look at Colorado to see that they have, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 teams, maybe 2 or 3 teams out there in Colorado, which in the mountains of Denver and Boulder and those Fort Collins, it's pretty cold out there already at this time of the year in the fall. This is September when I'm recording this. Okay, volleyball, and yes, it's all about men's teams, but I got tired of looking at men's team stuff, and I thought I'd look at the women's teams. And this is a picture of the Stanford team. They are the reigning NCAA women's volleyball champions. So I want to go ahead and depict them. And we can again see that volleyball is big in the North. That those tiers of states working their way from Massachusetts to Virginia, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey even. But where's the focus of this? It's out west. And we do know that lots of people out here are playing beach volleyball as well. But big programs out there in the west, the Pac-10 and whatnot, very powerful teams. And also, so anyway, you get the sense of what's going on here. Do notice that Hawaii as an inset also has these teams, and they do compete. What are we missing here is the Deep South. If they looked at baseball or football, I would hazard a guess that this map would look very different. It's not to say that they don't play those sports in the North, but everybody knows about the SEC. Everybody. So that said, trying to establish these places as regions as dominated by culture is the point. Okay. Now, in your textbooks too, if you'll look, there's coverage here of how things would have been different in regions. And I wanted to show you this one because I actually worked in a building in Memphis that before it was remodeled, and I'm going to show you what it looks like now, that this Greyhound bus station in Memphis, there's a big central station where Amtrak runs through that area as well, trains and mass transit, and white waiting rooms you see. I literally remembered seeing white drinking fountains and colored drinking fountains on those old walls. Now, mind you, the building, I was an environmental scientist. We were in there trying to assess lead-based paint and other things in that building so it could be, taken out of there so they could make the building useful again. So I am mad at myself that I didn't take those pictures, but segregation wasn't that long ago in the Jim Crow South. So this is showing it to you here in 1943, and there will be some other mention of race in the South with sports too in just a moment. But as we look at this, we know about Rosa Parks, and this is the central station, just so you know, and the bus times and all that kind of stuff is really a beautiful place. But now look at what they've turned it into. It's it's a bar, it's interactive shops and all these different kinds of things. And they revitalized the downtown Memphis, even as it's gentrification, but also as white flight has continued apace across Shelby County, running into the suburbs and then exurbs even into the neighboring counties, if you don't know Memphis that well. But the immediate downtown has been kind of refurbished, and it's pretty nice if you ever get a chance to visit. That clothing styles play a role here too. So, I mean, if you go back, let me duck back real quick. If you look back at this time, all the men, in the 40s are wearing hats. 30s and 40s, all men wear hats wherever they go, even if they're not in a business suit. But if we look forward, look at the different, I'm going to call them costumes. They're not really costumes. They are traditional clothing, but they're so out of the norm that you look at them and you're like, oh, wow, look at how they're dressing. And so the young women on the left are from Norway. I spent some time in Norway and happened to be there on what they call 17. Mai, 17th of May. It was their Independence Day. And all the little towns and villages, they all had unique dresses, vests, different kinds of things that you knew you were from one community or the other. And then many years later, this is actually me in the picture with these two German women. And I was a little taken aback. I didn't expect to see these dirndl clothes, the dresses, these peasant dresses that they had, but they were in fashion. They had become in vogue. They were marketing them and lederhosen for the men. And I thought, wow, this is really unique. So we're in a big square here in Munich is where I'm standing. So traditional dress and clothing is a visible, tangible, material part of the culture. And so knowing that gets you closer to understanding the people. Your textbook covers this German dance, the Schulplatter, and so you should look this up and look at the dance. It's pretty neat. This one's showing men and women. You'll usually find the videos are usually mostly men going around in the circle. There's some yelling going on. There's a little, they play with each other and somebody kicks the other guy in the seat of the pants, the one that's in front of him. But the traditional dance of Bavaria, and that's where, by the way, Munich is. So it is included here and why I included it in this presentation. Now, we'll tell you this, guys, you'll want to look the other way if eating strange things, these taboos, bother you, squint your eyes and look away. I have eaten bugs before. I've eaten just about everything I've had the opportunity to eat, and I'm telling you, within the chapter that we'll talk about agriculture, you'll see what I mean by this. And bugs used to be an essential part of our diet, and we wouldn't think about eating bugs now. But they're still part of people's diets around the world too, and even especially as you see here, geophagy, that is, of eating clay. When you start to think about vitamin supplements and whatnot, especially for pregnant women, this isn't an uncommon thing to have them eating clay and other soil as a part of the diet. And think about your vitamins that you take. They're full of things like iron or whatever, zinc. These are important aspects that for your body to work properly, you need. And so some people can't just go to the GNC store and get the things they want. Okay, so, all right. Now, here's another taboo. It's got dogs. So we'd see in Korea and some of the other East Asian societies that it's not uncommon at all for people to eat dogs. Okay, if we look at this, this is a guinea pig. We kept guinea pigs here with my daughters, but in Peru and Andean nations, which I was in Peru, they serve guinea pig. This is a peasant's choice. And so I grew up in the country. We killed all sorts of stuff and ate it. Squirrels. They're just tree rats. The cutest can be, but they taste pretty good too, And so I want you to, if you don't agree with it, that's fine, but understand at least why people make those choices and why it is a dish. I was watching Ratatouille the other day, and it's a peasant dish, but it's that thing they grew up with, and that is home is food culture. And you may look down your nose at it, but that's who they are. And so tell me what they eat. Tell me what those people eat, and I'll tell you more about the life they've lived. So let's go ahead and look here at some of these culture regions of North America. Now, put it together as a material culture, and that certainly speaks to the tangible items of these people, the chairs and tables they built, the houses that they constructed, tools, any tangible, usable thing is a material culture. And so let's look at just a couple of these as I wrap up these culture groups. So some of them should stand out to you, especially the one that you're living in. This one right here is Upland South folk culture. So looking into, say, the Appalachians and Kentucky bluegrass area, that's part of the southern core that we tend to think about. You also have a little section up here in the upper part of Missouri, but the southern part right here goes by the Ozarks and Ouachita Mountains area. So we know about Branson, Missouri, for instance. And this is the hill country, right here in Texas as well. So Tex-Mex, you're getting into that kind of western feel. But nonetheless, these three groups right here are an arc of what would be southern culture. This one right here is referred to sometimes as the Black Belt, but this is certainly very different African American area. Strong influence of African Americans in this area. Some different things might be from east to west to, like in cooking barbecue or something like that. The difference between tomato-based sauces and vinegar-based sauces, or how maybe you prepare other parts of the meal. Certainly okra comes into it when you start looking here in the far south and mixing in then this Acadian French culture, which is originated here in the Quebecois, or the French-speaking peoples of Canada, and those people moved from Acadian area down here into this area of southern Louisiana and express their culture upon that region. Looking here too, before I run out of time, with barbecue, that pigs make it up for the South, but as you get further west, it's going to be beef cattle. Here is Mormon culture, and you need to know something real quick about the Mormons. We'll talk about the religion later too, but they came from upstate New York, worked their way into Ohio, all the way out to Missouri, backed up into Illinois, into Nauvoo, Illinois, before Joseph Smith was killed, and then Brigham Young takes them all out here to form Deseret, the Beehive State, Utah, the colony of people. So when you look at these different places, it's really uniquely different cultures that imbue those areas, and how they're still all American, but they're still really different culturally speaking. So I'll come back and we'll look at a little bit more of these aspects in part 2 of this lecture. See you in a second. Bye-bye.